Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Borian from the Paladin Journal, and we are back with another video review. This time, our weapon of choice is False Gods by Graham McNeill. This is the second novel in the Horus Heresy series from Black Library, and it follows on directly from the last novel that we reviewed, Horus Rising by Dan Abnett. Now, that was a very strong opening novel for the series, and False Gods continues the tradition in most ways, although I have had some issues with it in the past. And as with Horus Rising, I was like, this time I want to re-examine why I disliked the novel. And I was actually surprised that the things I remember disliking weren't really true, and what I ended up not liking was something completely different that I'd never really thought about. So when we left our cast of characters at the end of Horus Rising, the Legion, the Luna Wolves, had just had this morale destroying combat against a human adjacent empire, and Horus was stricken by the fact that he had failed as a diplomat and not lived up to the promise of what the Emperor had invested in him as the new leader of the Great Crusade, as the War Master, as the commander-in-chief of the entire imperial military. However, now Horus has seen that what the galaxy needs is a stronger hand, and what he needs to be doing is to ruthlessly display his authority. He's sick and tired of all his brothers who are trying to politic against him, and he's sick and tired of all these administrators who are not taking over the Imperium from the warriors who created it in the first place. And that's a key part of what forms the base of Horus's motivations, not just in the previous novel, but in False Gods as well, because that continues to magnify further and further, and that is the chink in his armor that the evil forces, the powers of chaos, and the word bearers, his brother's legion, that they exploit in order to turn him from the Emperor's light. Now, as we begin the novel, Horus and his legion is making their way to the world of Davin. Now, Davin is a key location for this onset of the heresy, and that's where Horus suffers a grievous wound that can kill him, and he has to make a choice where he goes either towards the Emperor, he stays true to his oaths, to his beliefs, to what his father has taught him, and to really establish the future of mankind, or he goes the other way. And that's where the force of chaos are trying to point him. And Dalvin itself is not important. It is a location. Sorry, it is a location. But what's important is the events that happen on Davin, and how we see the magnification of all the chinks in armor, not of just Horus and his beliefs, but of the Legion as well. Because we've seen how the top command of the Legion is itself divided over how they view their role in the Great Crusade, what their role could be after the end of the Crusade, and how these warriors have to conduct themselves. And some of the writing is absolutely masterful. Graham does a lot to build on what Dan established in the previous novel, and he carries it forward. Although you can kind of see that the dialogue is getting a little bit more fervent, it's getting a little bit more aggressive, and it's not the flowery descriptions and the scene setting that is as important now, because now Graham has to delve into the nitty-gritty of the setting itself. He has to introduce the powers of chaos even more full on than what Dan did, where we only got a taste in Horus Rising, but now we get the full force of it. And we have a battle against the forces of Nurgle, which really shake the Legion, and we have these other battles that follow on after that, where we see the unleashed fury of Astartes against a force that can be comparable to them. And we see the unleashing of the absolute power that is Angron, the Primarch of the World Eaters Legion, and you can see how we're descending in the atmosphere of what the novels themselves mean. In Horus Rising, it was all about we are presenting you with this worldview of Imperium as an ascendant power, establishing its dominion over the entire galaxy, and you know they're unmatched. But now they're getting bogged down. There's too many things that are fracturing the discipline, and one of the more interesting things that Graham does is that he uses the mortal characters established by Dan Abnett, such as the poet Ignis Carcassi, or the imagist Euphrates Keeler, or the remembrancer Mercedes Oleton, and the iterator Kyril Sinderman. These characters become much more important in False Gods than they did in Horus Rising, which is fine. Graham is building on all of that. But what we're beginning to see is the establishing of how all these mortal characters are also important for the vast tale of the Horus Heresy. And it's not just the Astartes and the Primarchs, but also these mortal characters. And I thought that was an excellent direction to take part of the story in, and it makes them a much more fuller part of the novel itself and the story, even moving forward. But then there's also the fact, of course, that the Astartes are there, and they're having to deal with all these internal dissensions and seeming betrayals by their brothers, whether they're cousins or not, such as in the case of the word bearers that show up, or even among themselves as a legion, such as what happens with the Mournival. And which brings me to the point of the two things that I thought the novel did not convey properly. One of these was Loken's investigation into what caused Horus to suffer the grievous wound that he does, fighting against a traitor himself. Because Horus is a Primarch, his entire body is structured in such a way at the genetic level that there's pretty much nothing in the entire galaxy that can stop him, but something does. And these guys have no idea what's going on. And it's causing panic in the entire fleet, in the entire legion. People are divided. And what Loken discovers is what I expected was, if I was approaching it as a layperson, was that Loken would discuss everything with his brothers. And by that I mean the Mournival. So with Targaden, with Abaddon, and with Aximon. But he only shares things with Targaden, not with the others. And I thought that was a bit of a missed opportunity to show how really divided the Legion was at the top. But I can kind of guess why it did not happen, because it's putting in a whole lot more dialogue in the narrative, and that could take away from the harsh pace that Graham McNeill sets. But at the same time, I thought if things could be slowed down just a little bit, and we could really see how the Mournival breaks apart in this novel, and it would have added a bit of more authority to that particular subplot. And then the second part was that once Horus is recovered, the last third of the novel, it proceeds way too fast. Because at the beginning, there's a really nice pace to the novel as the fleet approaches Yavin and conducts a campaign on the moon, and the fight with Horus and the traitor that he suffers a wound in, and the Legion is fighting the Nurgle forces. And then things take a little bit of step back as we explore Horus' psyche, but things are still moving pretty fast because the Legion has to take some decisions that they cannot, since their commander Horus, he's not conscious enough to make those decisions. And then things just go like zoom. It's like 0 to 80 in like 2 seconds or whatever. It's like a race car just going all out. And that second part was where I had most of my issues with, because that last third of the novel, it did not convey enough of how Horus had changed. There's a pretty decent monologue by Horus at the end, which lays out the beginnings of his plan and his um, breaking of his oaths against the emperor. But I thought there could be more gravitas to everything if we had spent some more time on that section, and you know, just having the Legion itself go to war against the enemy that's in those pages. I thought that wasn't enough, even though we had the world with the world leaders showing up and even Angron, and that also proved to be a little bit of disappointment because it was more like Angron Hulk smash, rather than Angron getting sufficiently built up as a threat. Um, and in that aspect, I thought that his appearance here did not compare favorably to the appearance from uh, to the appearance from Sanguinius and Rogaldon. Although, as a counterpoint, we did have Fulgrim show up, and that was a really neat intro to how Fulgrim is presented uh, and the context of his relationship with Horus. And we see some more of his Legion, particularly the characters Saul Tarvitz and Lucius, who were captains that showed up in Horus Rising, and they're coming back again, and we get some more time with them. So that was a huge plus for me. And also, from hindsight, I know that this is all going to lead in towards Graham's novel Fulgrim, which covers the Emperor's Children exclusively and shows how Fulgrim fell from grace, uh, which is like a direct comparison to this one. But getting back to False Gods, so another thing that I liked was that the breaking of faith between Loken Targaryen and their brothers Abaddon and Axamon. They're now on two opposite ends, and it's like you can feel the tension that's there. The heresy, it's remarkable as an event because it was Astartes fighting Astartes, which had never happened before in the 200 plus years of the Great Crusade, and was never imagined by anyone who is present in these pages. You could say that maybe the emperor had a plan for it, or even the Custodes did, but none of that's covered here. That's not germane to this story. Although the Custodes do show up in a special sequence, which I thought was neatly done. It conveyed the threat of how they are different from Astartes, and what kind of powers they have themselves as uh, engineered beings, even above the level of Astartes, and possibly in some ways comparable to the Primarchs. So yes, overall, I still rate the novel very highly, and my reread and all the other books that I've read over the years, they have given me a much needed greater appreciation for this novel. And I think that while it's not one of Graham's best, um, it definitely is a contender for the top tier of his work. It's just that the change of pace at the end of the novel doesn't quite work for me, and the novel could have done with a little bit more content here and there. But you know, at the end, it still gets you fired up for what happened and what's gonna come, because the next novel in the series is a Galaxy in Flames by Ben Counter, and that is all about one of the most devastating battles of the Heresy, which is the Battle for Istvan 3. And in case some of you recognize the name Istvan, no, this is not the. It's not gonna cover the Dropsite massacre, I think, but it's still going to be a very supreme level novel because I remember being so excited for it and it delivered. And as soon as I reread it, I'm gonna like try to get some of my thoughts down. But yes, Graham McNeill did a very good job with False Gods. It worked well for what story it was trying to tell, and it made me want to read the next novel just as much. Horus Rising made me want to read False Gods, and the reread of the entire series is going pretty well, I think. Soon as we are done with the first bunch of novels, we will be diving into the novellas as well, and there will be some anthologies and some other supplemental stuff. So I'll need to come up with a plan to manage all of that. But I think I'll stick with largely a publication order for these stories. But anyways, that's me done for this time, guys. Hope you stick around. You can find my social media channels in the description below. So give me a follow, and you're welcome to hang out with me on Twitch, where I do some World of Warcraft stuff, and I do my Warhammer assembly, and hopefully painting soon, although I'm not sure how that will go because I don't think a lot of my paints are in good condition, but we'll see. So that's it, guys. Me signing off. See you guys soon for the next video review. Very soon, hopefully. And see you later. Bye.